Hello, good evening, everybody. It's 6:03, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. And welcome to the Monday, March 10th Berlin Board of Education meeting. We're going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, we are excited to start our meeting out tonight with Griswold School joining us and their families. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Campbell, and I can't wait to see what you guys have in store for us.
Hi, good evening. Griswold is proud to present a really exciting presentation tonight. We actually have a 5th grade class, Mrs. Wade, and a 2nd grade class, Mrs. Gary, and several of their students. And they're going to be presenting what they do in some of their buddy class lessons. So we have more than half the school that participates in these buddy classes, and these two teachers have kind of been the leader with it. And tonight they're going to present on some coping strategies, and the 5th graders kind of mentor the 2nd graders. It's really exciting, and then they're going to kind of test you out to see how well you do with some of those coping strategies at the end. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Wade and Mrs. Gary.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Gary. I teach the 2nd grade class, and when we originally started this whole endeavor in September, my goal for my 2nd graders was to help engage them in some social emotional development through the use of the 5th graders, who would support them in like lesson plans and activities together. So earlier in the year, we've done fun projects together where we've made like skeletons when it was Halloween, but we've also done some social emotional lessons that Mrs. Wade will tell you more about.
Thank you. I'm Michelle Wade. I teach 5th grade. It's been a real pleasure to watch these kids work together. Part of what we thought of not only was the SEL part of this, but also looking at the 5th graders as leaders and giving them leadership roles. So this was a great partnership for them in that respect, and it also gives them the chance to be role models, not only for their 2nd grade peers, but also for their other 5th grade peers and kids around the building. And really what is awesome about these kids is you're going to see that the lesson that they are showing you today, yes, we guided it, but I showed them how to run a lesson from a teacher standpoint, the initiation, taking them through a lesson and all the parts, but we kind of gave them the reins to put this lesson together. And I think that's what's most amazing about this group of kids is that they put this lesson together, we guided them, and then they took it from there. So it's really great, and I hope you enjoy it. You guys want to come up?
Okay, so this is Addie. You can wave Addie. Piper, Dylan, Nathan, and Olivia.
And I have Kenzie, Ava, Patrick, Sam, and Robert. Ready? Do you want it? It's up to you.
Our names are Kenzie and Addie. Today we're going to tell you guys why we have buddies. We have buddies because we talk about our feelings, and also we are teaching the 2nd graders different coping skills to help with their problems in like difficult situations. And I used to know Addie, and now I'm like one of her friends.
This shows that not all problems are big, but some can be big. Today we will be showing you many different ways to handle your big feelings, but you will notice that majority of the problems are small.
We are Ava and
Piper
and our slide is about big problems.
versus small problems.
The definition of a big problem is
A
problem that has you feeling big emotions and can affect a group of people or community.
One example of a big problem is
My dog had surgery yesterday and I was really scared.
the definition of a small problem is a problem that has you feeling big emotions but typically only affects you or maybe one other person. The example of a small problem is I'm playing a morning meeting game and I lose. This also depends on your age.
So if you're 30 years old, you won't lose a morning meeting game.
But however, there will always be big and small problems no matter your age.
Hi, our names are Patrick.
And Dylan.
We are here to help show you some problems we see in your everyday lives.
First up, your car won't start. Second, you can't find your keys for your car. Last, you are stuck in traffic.
First off, for me, families in Berlin are struggling with putting food on the table. You have to clean up after your kids or pets, and your 2 kids have to be in different places at the same time.
Now you guys are going to get a small bag of cards with the problems we just started. Please sort them into big and small problems.
Hello. That's a big problem. Very big problem. That's big.
Alright, let's see.
We put the big problems on this side and small.
Which side do you want to do big? Okay.
Because you already started a big problem right there. Right?
I'm kidding. That's probably a small problem. But to me, that's a pretty big problem.
You know, big
My kids make messes.
No, that's in my household too.
2 kids and 2 dogs.
Because it makes more work for us.
So it affects more. No, it affects more than 1 or 2 people.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's me, my husband.
That could be the same thing.
It could be a big problem because I'm a teacher. So if I can't get to work, then my students need me. But it's probably a small. If I'm not a teacher, then it's a small problem.
Good point.
I agree.
How about if one parent's not available?
This
And you
one
only have, like, maybe
is
one's
typically a
working late,
small
so you only have
problem, but
one
if you're-
parent that has to
if
take
I'm
them
coming
to
to a
2
board
places
meeting
at
and
once.
stuck in traffic, and then everyone's waiting for me,
Okay, so you could drop
and they
one
can't
off.
start the meeting without me.
And if your dad's their coach, then I'd have to
If I
agree.
You know what I did? You know what I did so I can find my keys?
so we'll
I
put
put
that
an
one
air
on.
tag on them because I lose them all the time.
Might not be a big problem.
Yeah. But then I forget I have an air tag on it. And then that, we can move that to the big. I know, I mean little, I know it's supposed to be a little problem. Can we do a middle? Depending.
So do we have a middle? So we could say big, could be big, could be small.
I just like to make up my own. All right, what do you think about your car? How'd they do? What do you think? What did they say? Right? A lot of big problems. Big. Why do you think it's big? A lot of small problems.
That's a really big problem because it affects more than 1 or 2 people. Because then in my house, so that,
Yes.
and then I said, I eat teacher, so if I can't go to work and my students need me, then that's big. But if I'm just going to the grocery
for
store or
sure.
something little, it's
What do you think about you can't find your car keys? Think that'd be a big problem? That's one of my problems all the time. True. I seem to misplace both of them.
Mr. John usually has my spare, and he works really far away, so.
But you don't really have a spare.
So I don't really have a spare, no.
So you lose your keys, it's a problem.
Yep.
tell her what I did for this little problem that I have all the time.
Depending on where we're going and what Our agenda is.
Right? So like now you just find
Ongoing problem. All the time.
and then just slide it over.
Yes.
So did we get them right?
We said,
We failed the test.
right, if we were coming home from work, right, maybe not in a rush, but if you're going to work in the
You guys ready? We're gonna bring them back up to the front. Is that okay? And we'll test how you did. Girls ready? Guys ready?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We're supposed to leave.
we're supposed to leave them. We're gonna put that
I didn't hit this.
It's
All right, we got it.
Thank you, ladies. Great job.
Wait, so you say this and I say this?
So time to reveal the answers. So for the first one, it is a big problem. For the second one, so kind of need the, yeah. Do we have like the numbered?
So your car won't start, you said was what?
So your car won't start was a big problem because say you're home alone and your husband or wife is at work already, you don't really have any way to get there as soon as you can. For the second one, it is a small problem being you can't find your keys to your car because you might have a spare or like Miss Dennis said, you might have an air tag on your keys. And then you are stuck in traffic. This is also a small problem. Yes, it may be annoying, but it doesn't really affect you that much because you'll get to where you're going, but even though if you're a little late.
For the fourth one, it is a big problem. For the fifth problem, it is small. And for the last problem, it is a small problem.
I am Nathan.
And I am Sam. Okay, so what surprised you about the big and small problems from your card sort?
We actually thought that most of them were big problems. I think it's your perception and how you view it yourself and what you need to do or where you need to be. So we thought I think we were we had five big problems. I don't even think we kind of thought they were small.
No, but Kenzie was very persuasive.
Exactly.
She was very persuasive.
We were able to move some into the small, and then we put one in the middle. Like you're stuck in traffic. She said, if you're going home, it's not a big deal, which it's not. But if we're going somewhere and we need to be there at a certain time and we're not going to get there, we thought that was
Like the airport.
exactly the airport. You're taking a test, SAT test. You got to be there on time. So we thought that could potentially be a very large problem.
In our group, we kept talking about the definition that was discussed before between big and small problem. So if it affects like one or two or, a small amount of people, then it could be small. So your car won't start. So depending on where you're going and what you're doing, but, like we were talking about how if we can't get to school and our students need us, then it's going to be a big problem because it's going to affect a lot more people than just us.
Us second graders and fifth graders.
What have you done when one of these problems? What have you done about one of these problems that you have come across in your life?
Take a deep breath and say, I will get there.
I just don't.
Called my husband to come home from work because I locked my keys in my car.
Us second graders and fifth graders came up with the wheels. You guys will have to put some of the coping strategies that works for you. You guys will go make yourselves a wheel in a group of 2 or 3. Here are some strategies you can use. Read a book, draw,
listen to music, and go for a walk.
Make it ourselves.
I haven't had the luxury of those cookies. Oh, you're gonna work with us?
Oh, good.
I love it, because we really
We do. I don't think our ideas are maybe that good.
All right, so I enjoy the beach. So maybe like
Throw my kids' toys away. Just kidding. When they're
If you drove
sleeping.
kind of quickly, you could get down there in a good 35 minutes.
When they're sleeping.
I drive like a race car driver, so maybe.
And they have a house full of toys.
You could go to Cromwell River.
Oh, yes,
Right?
go to the river.
The river in Cromwell, which is like
water and waves.
5 minutes.
Take a deep breath.
What do you think?
Relax you and
So we're gonna say take a ride to the river.
I do too.
I like to take a bath, like a hot bath with the door locked, so the kids can't get in. I have a dog. I have 2 dogs.
I'm gonna take
I like that one.
Your dog.
I need a coping mechanism.
Walter?
So you guys.
Yeah, that's his name, right?
Sometimes I just need to take a break from a situation.
Which one's his name?
I just need a
Walter
break.
here with Miss McCord.
I like that.
I'd love to. In the black coat. Okay.
What?
Very nice.
For taking a break.
Oh, all right.
Very nice. So Walter's his pup. Okay, so we could say like petting.
Petting our animal.
Shut my brain is in your class. I'm just focusing on what I'm reading. And then I look at the time.
I like to listen to music.
Oh yes, that's a
Right?
really
I like
good
to listen
one.
to
You know
music.
Mia likes to listen to music when she goes to bed and when she gets upset.
So I
Listen to music.
Make you happy. Yeah. For stress relief, but then they just.
What about drawing or coloring?
Like you put your finger on it, playing it, but then you get to.
I can't draw, nor can I
Can't draw
color.
either. My stick figures, they look really rough.
I don't either. That's a good one.
So let's say coloring.
I like to go out to dinner with friends.
Yeah, so people say that's not healthy, but yeah.
Right?
I was
gonna say, with friends.
All right,
That'd be my number one.
Yes, time with friends. Do you know, because I have a lot of kids. You know that, right, Kenzie? You have a lot of
You, I have 2 cats. I
too many.
Taking a walk, and even like, yeah, petting a dog.
How many do I have left?
You guys know that. You love that.
Oh, I like to read a book. Read a book,
I
or
said I was gonna read, but I don't ever.
I don't ever read. I just said I should, but I don't.
Oh, do you love him? Is he the best?
I do like to watch TV.
Does he get in trouble at home?
That's always nice.
Yeah, cause he's trained.
How about if I say scroll
Yeah.
TikTok? Is that not appropriate? I love to scroll through TikTok.
I love to scroll.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. Well, that's good that he's. still
Okay,
feeding
all right.
you.
So let's put reels. Reels, that's all the same. Because then it's kind of mindless. Okay.
They're funny, aren't they?
Um,
Cuddle with you.
I will say.
Sometimes I'll go for a walk. Rarely.
Wait,
But
do you know that I went to the
Does he
soccer
steal
field twice
demons?
today because Mia forgot her ball? So we walked there to bring her, we walked home, then we walked back to bring her a ball. And we walked back home. Very nice.
so you got your walk in today. And then did we put deep breaths? Deep breaths is a good one.
I do really love that.
It just was lagging from lagging.
That's a good one. Deep.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
Her daughter. 4-year-old
That is a really
Ooh,
good
that is a good one.
And you know, too, like, it's
What?
really good for your hand-eye
You just give
coordination.
it to them or throw it at them or
Fidget,
just drop it.
calm your brain. Some of them can
Like,
really
they
stress
catch
you
it.
out.
You know, at my desk at work, I have the goat, the screaming goat. So when I get stressed out, working with certain people, I just hit my screaming goat, and it goes.
I've never
It's fantastic.
I love it.
It's very loud, so everyone in the office can hear it.
We had
A little
the
tiny
staples,
goat.
like,
Oh,
no
Miss
button.
Donovan. That's a good one too.
Take a walk.
Ask Miss Donovan.
Call a friend.
My daughter how to crochet.
Oh yeah.
You guys go ride
When we at
bikes.
Starbucks once a week.
Jump rope? Yeah. Used to love the jump rope.
It's one of
I
our
don't have
friends.
the-
Double dutch.
She's running it.
Oh, and that's a good one.
I see where
That's a
Zoe
great
gets her
one.
love for it then.
I'm gonna have to add that on.
Are you going to sign up for
Walk
that?
or nap. Or nap.
Or take deep breaths or nap.
Or weave. Yeah, we filled it up. Look at that. You guys had some great ideas. Thank you.
Big one for me.
Thank you, Piper.
said
Thank
Robert
you.
and Olivia.
Ava.
Does anyone want to share their strategies? And then you can pass it to our last two lines right over there.
So we don't know. Wait.
So does anybody want to share any of their strategies?
Sure. I wrote down go for a walk. I love to bake, so that's always a stress reliever for me, and then I get to eat it. Reading and listening to music.
We had listening to music too. We did scrolling, like reels, taking deep breaths, take a ride to the river, pet an animal, color, listen to music, time with friends, and watch TV.
I said, think about the bigger picture and if things could be worse. So like if you're stuck in traffic, and think about just getting home safe is the goal, and think about if it's an accident, how much worse those, and feel bad for those people. I said, take a walk. I said, watch funny dog videos, because those always make me laugh. And then I said, keep calm and call Brian Benigni.
I said, I was using some of these as the issue, so I said, if you want to grab some food from your cabinet, some canned foods and non-perishables, and drop them off at your local church or social service office for some struggling families. I tell myself if something, horrible's happening, not horrible, but something that's out of the way, I'll say it's not gonna matter in 10 minutes from now. No one's gonna remember it, so that's a good one that I use. If I've lost my keys, I generally try to retrace my steps. It's not the only thing I lose, trust me. And I think about where I was, so I kind of go backward to see what I did, where I could have dropped them off, and I just take my time to go retrace my steps, and usually I can find things that way. And then to Brian's point too, I just say a lot of times some things are just out of our control, and there's just nothing you can do. If you're stuck in traffic, you're stuck in traffic, unless you have, someone with a helicopter that can come pick you up. You have to wait. You have to learn patience. It's a tough thing to do, but you can do it. You can do it.
Hi, my name is Olivia.
And my name is Robert.
Are there any members that would like to share their wheels and their strategies?
The difference between a small and a big problem is a big problem is something that affects a lot of people, and a small problem is something that affects you.
How does thinking about these strategies help you?
I also learned the difference between big problems and small problems. Some things I think are big problems in reality are small.
Anybody else?
And figure out next steps.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
How has this helped you in your, at school or at home in real life?
It helps me get more friends, not just in 5th grade, but in 2nd grade and stuff.
Anyone else want to share how this has helped them in real life?
This has helped me because I learned how to scale a problem, and now I can tell if my brother getting his hair cut is a small problem or a big problem.
She's so cute.
Even though I was teaching my buddies, I feel like I learned
So many of you thought what we're small, we're big, or big versus small, and you're right. And that's, I think, what part of this is about, is opening up those lines of communication, thinking about sometimes you can't always figure out, you know, there's a problem, you know, you can't solve it right away, but thinking about these coping strategies and sometimes saying like, I can't do anything about this right now. I have to sit in this traffic, but I'll get home. And then depending on the situation and the perspective, like, yeah, I'm a teacher now. I'm stuck in traffic. I've got to call ahead, and someone's got to cover my classroom, so it does affect more people, right? So each situation is different, but what's nice is that it's opened up those lines of communication about thinking about that and thinking about the second graders.
And it's been very helpful because after we've done we do roughly a lesson a month, and then the second time we meet that month is something for more creative and just to have fun with each other. But what's nice about this is when the lesson is over, the language is then used in our classroom regularly. So if someone's like lost their library book, I just have to be, oops, scale the problem. And I think what they learned was big problems need bigger strategies, but small problems need smaller strategies. So do I really need to go to the calming corner for this problem, or can I just take a couple deep breaths? So I think that's given them, you know, not just different strategies, but it put it into perspective for just day-to-day second grade life.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys did a great job.
I don't need my husband to pull out one of these wheels. Alright, you want me to turn it over to you?
Yeah. Do you have there? I can calm down if you stop talking.
Do you want to just, they're going.
Everyone could wait 1 minute?
If everyone could wait just 1 second, just wait 1 second. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. All right, so thank you so much to the Griswold students and families and teachers and admin who are here today. We always love seeing what the students are learning in school, and it's a highlight of our meeting. But right now, we'll move on before everyone leaves to the next agenda item, because I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent.
Thank you. This month is Connecticut Board of Education Members Appreciation Month. So I want to take a moment to recognize those that are sitting in front of you, the time that they put into the meetings, the other meetings that we have beyond these meetings, the work that's done behind the scenes to ensure that we have a quality education system in Berlin. If we could just give them a round of applause for all the dedication. And now, for all the students, I didn't ask you to stay just for a round of applause. In that box up there, if I could ask you just to, Scary, if you could lift the cover, there are some cupcakes and there's a bottle of water. So please help yourself to a cupcake and a bottle of water. So thank you for a great job tonight.
Thank you,
Mr.
guys.
Taylor.
And don't feel like you have to say. You can certainly leave after you get your cupcakes.
And for the board members behind you, there is a gift. If it's the wrong size, let me know, but there's a bag behind you, so please.
All right, I got Peter at 6:31.
All right, so we're going to continue. Thank you for the cupcakes and the gift, but we're going to just carry on with our agenda. So we're going to turn it over to our student board reps and see what you guys have to share.
So, to start, we wanted to talk about The Wizard of Oz. So, this past week, the BHS Performing Arts Department put on their phenomenal rendition of The Wizard of Oz. Besides it being an outstanding show, the musical aids in showcasing the diverse talents of all students at BHS. It also helps to raise money for the music scholarships, as well as future educational trips and productions for students.
Along with this, last week, Berlin High School's DECA team attended the State Career Development Conference, an event that helps students develop both their career and leadership skills. The conference consisted of competition, networking, and overall community service. A special congratulations to Zoe Pager, who placed third, Victoria Vazvashaiva, who placed fourth, and Andrew Feldman, who placed fifth in each of their respective events.
Next, on February 21st, BHS students, part of the National Honor Society and the Upbeat program, helped current 8th graders navigate BHS, learn more about the classes there are to offer, and give them a chance to learn more about what to expect this upcoming fall.
The Technonauts went to the robotics competition in Waterbury, placing 7th place, making it to the semifinals of playoffs and winning the Autonomous Award. Their robot was unique due to their fast and consistent elevator, allowing the team to be one of the highest scoring robots in the competition. The Autonomous Award was won based on complex sensor system and reliable automated elevator alignment.
Next, on March 19, the distinguished members of the Rho Kappa National Honor Society will be celebrated during their induction ceremony. Among the honored students are those who exemplify excellence in the social studies field. Their dedication to scholarship and service has earned them a place in this esteemed society. Congratulations in advance to all the newly inducted members on this significant achievement.
And last but not least, after a little over 6 months working with the case State v. Emerson Harkness, Berlin fell in the Elite Eight on Friday, March 7th to Fairfield Ludlow High. This year, the team advanced to beat 52 other teams in the state and competed in both trials simultaneously on Friday. Unfortunately, our very own Emerson Harkness was found guilty, but next year the BHS mock trial team hopes to inspire a new team of vicious lawyers and reliable witnesses. Go Redcoats.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. I switched the report of board members and student reps because I guess I was so excited to hear what you guys had to share. So now we'll go to the report of board members. Does any board member like to share out anything that they attended or participated in since our last meeting?
I attended the Willard Family Dance, which is PTO sponsored, and it was an awesome night to host with all the families and good times.
I also attended the dance. It was fun. The kids had a lot of fun. It was actually kind of sad because it's my daughter's last year in elementary school. So, a little bittersweet.
Jen, do you?
I attended the, no surprise.
I know, but
Wizard of Oz. You know, I just want to say, like, the sheer emotion that these kids show after the production, just, you know, it talks to the close relationship that they all form during the time that they're together and afterwards too. I mean, they just bond doing this. And what was really nice to see was that the middle school kids were part of that this year too. And we'll see if that continues, but it was great to have, you know, 6th through 12th graders involved.
I too attended it on Friday night only though, and it was amazing. And I was more objective this year because I didn't have anyone in it, and it's still amazing. So shout out to the Berlin Arts Department. They do an amazing job. Tyler does an amazing job every year, and as does Mr. Jesko. Yeah, they do an amazing job. So I think they deserve a ton of credit. And the live music is, like, I think really what brings, as opposed to like recorded music, it just brings it home.
Thank you. So I'll share this Wednesday. I'm going to be attending CABE Day on the Hill. I was at the state capitol a few weeks ago with my students from, you know, the school I work at, and, you know, we were walking back, you know, through one of the buildings, and I bumped into Patrice McCarthy. She saw me. She's the executive director of CABE, and she saw me with all my students, and it was only like maybe 9 of them. She said, "Oh, you should come back in a few weeks for CABE Day on the Hill and bring some students with you." So I know last year we actually talked about potentially bringing some Berlin students, and then so when I had reached out to her and said, "Okay, great, how many?" Because Brian and I talked about, well, maybe we could get Berlin student. I'll bring my Newington students. Then she said only 2 students. So then we didn't follow through with also getting Berlin because I was kind of like, you know, it's a really small group. So, but I'm bringing 3. I'm going to bring 3 students on Wednesday. So I'm excited to bring my students and then also go and represent our board. And it should be a good day. And next week I will also be attending the Rho Kappa induction. And as every year, I look forward to it. I think they do a great job, and it's, I think, a really great night. So, anyone else? Okay, we can move to committee reports. The Community Engagement Committee has not met since our last meeting, but we're working on getting another meeting on the calendar. Peter, the FNO committee hasn't met since the last meeting, correct?
No, we're meeting on Wednesday.
Yep. And then, do you want to share out? You guys just had one?
Yeah, the curriculum committee met before this meeting, and it was with the 2 purposes. But the first purpose was to review some Spanish opportunities, or some not textbooks actually, some storybooks, I guess, for lack of a better word. So the idea is to have it be implemented into the 8th grade Spanish 1A and 1B, as well as high school level, and then the Spanish 5 as well, with the lens towards just not having it be the typical like conjugating verbs and very grammatical sort of straightforward, but more of an opportunity for the students to read a story and be invested in the story, and hopefully by the end of it not even realize they're reading in a different language because they're so into the story. So that's what I've been passing around, so take a look and review them, and if you have any questions. And then we did talk about next year's calendar, but I think we have that on the agenda, so we could save that till later. But
Thank you. Thank you for the updates. Correspondence to the board?
Yes, I have 2 correspondents to the board. Berlin Board of Education, thank you for the bib and onesie. We appreciate the well wishes of our growing family. Michelle Pryor and family, teacher at Hubbard. To members of the Board of Education, I want to express my sincere gratitude for approving additional sick days. Your gesture has brought enormous sense of relief that takes me away to fear of a financial burden. The thought of having to take sick time with pay. I feel so blessed to work in a district and to have the support that now I can navigate through my cancer diagnosis and from a treatment. With gratitude, Kim Pear. Kim is a paraprofessional at Willard.
Thank you. All right, audience of citizens, if any member of the community would like to approach the board, just come on up, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes per resident.
My name is Dave Olinda from Cynthia Drive. I stand before you today, or sit before you, to discuss Aaron's Law. My time today with you is not about the content and the lesson plans, but more about how this was communicated to the parents. We received an email from our principal on January 22nd introducing us to Aaron's Law. In the email, it went into a little detail about why it exists, a little background about it, as well as a link to the website where parents can gather resources to help better understand what this was all about. It gave, and it also gave parents the opportunity to opt their children out if they wish to do so. Where the system failed with their communication was that it gave parents only 6 days to respond. Now, I don't know about your schedules, but we are a single income household. I work 2 jobs and my wife is a stay-at-home mom taking care of everything within our home. Because of our chaotic schedules, we didn't get the opportunity until mid-February to read through the 5 lesson plans. I also want to make it very clear that our principal, Mr. Cheverini, was very accommodating and willing to work with us along the step of every way. He made himself available for questions, for in-person meetings, and allowed us, even after the deadline, to go in and review the material. My issue does not lie with our principal, but instead the system that failed many of the parents in communicating this to them. Like us, many parents are in the same boat. They're trying to manage 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs, children's sports, activities, and other things that life throws our way. Like many of you, our inboxes are inundated with so many emails, but to simply communicate this with a single email a few weeks before this was about to begin, and to give parents only 6 days to find time out of their schedules to go in during school hours to review this curriculum is where you failed. The introduction to Aaron's Law was discussed in May of 2024 prior to last school year coming to a close. You had the entire summer to discuss and come up with a game plan to properly deliver this to the parents. We had August, September, October, November, even December to communicate this and give folks ample time out of their schedules to review the material and make a decision that was best for them and their children. But we got 6 days. It's almost as if you were trying to sneak it in the hopes that most people missed it. Unfortunately, many people did miss it. After we got a chance to read the material, we were curious how other parents felt and reached out to 7 other parents in our school. Out of those 7, 6 of them had no idea this was going to begin in February, after the February break. One of them never even received the email. As you could imagine, parents started to talk, and one post on Berlin Buzz caught like wildfire and spread very quickly. If you didn't get a chance to read those comments, many parents also had no idea, and if given the opportunity, would have found time to read the curriculum beforehand. Many parents that we know, like us, chose to opt their children out of some or all of the lesson plans. So my goal of speaking to you today is the importance of communicating this in a way that allows parents to find the proper time to review this without rushing through it and make a sound decision that's best for their families. In the past, we've had to sign permission slips for significantly less, like allowing our kids to watch a movie in class, for example. With Aaron's Law, I personally feel we should have taken the same approach. Instead of opting our children in by default, a permission slip could have been sent earlier in the school year, and naturally, that would have made parents pause and question what they're signing permission for. I'm not asking you guys to stop the curriculum. I'm just asking you guys to change how you deliver it to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to approach the board?
Hi, I'm Kirsten Osmian from Cindy Lane. I'm basically here on the same grounds that Dave is. I'm a mom of 3 girls, and while I fully understand that you guys were under a state mandate to put this into place, I'm, again, like Dave, I'm not here to say anything about whether or not it happens, or even what the curriculum is. My husband and I did choose to opt our children out because those are conversations that happen within the walls of our home. I think that there are probably, if you were to poll the teachers, there are probably a lot of teachers that were very uncomfortable by that curriculum. Last year, as Dave mentioned, last year I had to sign a permission slip for my daughters to watch Winn-Dixie, which is rated PG, but a pretty innocent movie. After reading the 4th grade curriculum, I was shocked that their teacher would have the opportunity to present this to them kind of within their own comfort level. So up to the point of whatever the scenarios are that are played out in each lesson, but let's say a teacher's really comfortable talking about this. Who's to say she's not going to go further and talk about things that I wouldn't want discussed with my underage children? I don't know if there's any kids in the room, but it's pedophilic. So you're presenting something to my kids that's not appropriate, and we absolutely should have signed permission slips. Again, I understand this is a state mandate. I understand Aaron's Law. I get it, whatever. As a parent, this was, you guys really, we got 6 days, like Dave said. We had barely any time. In that short week leading up to it, I spoke to about a dozen families who either didn't know this was happening or had no idea that the curriculum would be as graphic as it was. Now, that's not to say every teacher went that far with it. I know a lot of teachers kind of scaled back a little bit, which I was happy to hear. I think all the letters that went home the day of the lesson absolutely could have been sent home ahead of time with a permission slip on the top. Here you go, this is our plan. You can opt in or opt out. Here's what we're planning on doing. I initially, my husband and I were gonna opt them out of only half of it, and then we started talking about it. I was more concerned also about kind of the runaway conversations when kids start raising their hands and saying things that might be taken the wrong way, or God knows where things go, especially once you get to kind of that 4th and 5th grade level, the conversations get much more in depth. So I wish that it had been addressed differently with a lot more time and a lot more detail. And at the end of the day, it's up to the parents. We choose to send our kids to school every day, but we also should be given the opportunity to opt out of things like that with a lot more information leading up to it.
Thank you. Could you just restate your address one more time?
53 Cindy Lane.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to just have, typically with audience assistance, we don't have back and forth. I will have the superintendent just, briefly respond, but I do want to say, just in the general sense, I do appreciate that when you guys come forward with your concerns, you also brought forward a proposed solution, whether that's what they're going to do or not. It was just nice to hear, a way that it could be changed or improved, and so thank you for that.
First, I'd like to apologize if the timeline was the issue. But I just want to say, with the state curriculum like that, having parents have the right to opt out, that is something that we don't have to do because of the state curriculum. We did it because we knew that the curriculum could be upsetting to some parents and so on. But I can say this to you, there's been 2 incidents, without disclosing more than that, since the curriculum that have come forward that are very concerning, that because of that curriculum, things that are occurring in certain homes. So that part, as far as, like you said, you're not saying not to have the curriculum, you're saying the timeline for the curriculum to be done and how it was announced. We tried to have the opt-out so that parents did have more oversight over curriculum than usual because we knew that some of the content could be concerning. So I apologize about the timeline. We will try to do better in getting a timeline out. I don't know if we would have a permission slip per se, as with a movie, because that's our policy. Our policy is that if we have a movie that's being seen by a certain age group and it's a PG, that we don't show it without permission slip. But as far as an open curriculum, our curriculum, we have Atlas Rubicon. You can go into it. Our curriculum is public. It's been for years. We never want you to think that we're doing something to the students or teaching them something that parents aren't aware of. So that was not our intent at all. As far as the timeline, we could do better in getting it out, as you said, because it was approved. It went through the curriculum council. It went through the board as a curriculum to be adopted. And it wasn't that we had to use that program, but the state offered other programs that we had that we were supposed to implement. So I don't know if that clarifies any of your questions, but you definitely have my apologies for the timeline and not having enough time to. It wasn't meant to sneak something in or do that at all. It really wasn't. For as long as I've been in the district, having our curriculum public to parents is something that we've always had. It's online. That's not how we operate. There's full transparency. So I did not receive any direct phone calls here about it. I know the principals handled the situation at the building level, which I commend them for, and I commend the way that both of you came forward to share with us. So, we definitely appreciate the feedback, and we'll try to do better on the next one.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. All right, anyone else like to approach the board? All right, moving on to our next agenda item, personnel. We have a retirement. Kathy D'Amato, a reading teacher at Mary E. Griswold School and Richard D. Hubbard School, has submitted her letter of intent to retire at the end of the 2024-2025 school year. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move that the board accept the retirement of Kathy D'Amato, reading teacher at Griswold School and Hubbard School, effective June 30th, 2025. Also to thank her for the 19 years of service she's provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement.
So we have a motion by Peter, second by Jessica. Any discussion?
Ms. D'Amato's a wonderful human being. She lives in my neighborhood, and she is a sweetheart, so she will be missed.
I just wanted to thank Kathy. Kathy's raised 3 children that went through the Berlin Public School. She's a Berlin resident, as Brian just added. She's worked in every elementary school as a reading teacher, and just to thank her for her time with our students and the work she's done. So thank you, Kathy.
Okay. Anything else? We can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 9-0. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So motion by Melissa, second by Jen. Okay. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The vote carries 9-0. New business. I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to report the status of the adopted budget for the 2025-2026 budget year.
At this time, based on the recommendations of the board and the work that we're doing amongst the administrators, we're preparing for the F&O meeting to take place on Wednesday morning to discuss potential cuts and to give the information that you've asked for as far as cost for salaries, if salaries were frozen for various groups and unaffiliated, as well as looking at class sizes and various programs. So we should have all that ready to go for Wednesday morning and to start looking at, should we not receive the 6.8% increase, where are the potential reductions?
Anyone have anything they'd like to ask or comment or discuss? Okay, so we are going to move on to the next item, the proposed school calendar for 2026-2027. That is posted in Schoology, and it's also been passed out, and it's on the table in front of you. So I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent. I know this was discussed in the curriculum committee meeting earlier, but.
So one piece is the establishment of the graduation date, and that part there is June 7th, 2027, June 11th, 2027. Friday. Now, potentially, once we establish the date, the new state statute says that that date can remain, whether the 180 days are completed or not. We used to have to adjust it repeatedly, so that's the one part. The other part is to look at the, and I wasn't in the subcommittee meeting, but were there any changes to the 26-27 calendar in the subcommittee, Brian?
The 26, 27,
Yeah.
there was a, can we start with 20 this year?
Well, we just have to jump down because that's the way it was in the
Oh, okay,
agenda.
all right, then we'll do that.
So if you
Okay,
could do
26, 27, there was a shift. Oh, wrong one. They're proposing a shift from, what's the current? We're looking at either keeping things as they were, which is this option, which was a full day off on the 13th of October and a half day on December 4th, and just switching that to have it be the half day that October date and then the full day off on December 4th.
Got it.
The feedback from the the teachers were that the amount of times the kids were out of school during that October period was kind of clunky, and that they felt like there was a good stretch of time where they hadn't seen the kids, and it seemed like the teachers had, at the elementary schools, felt like they had a large impact in terms of trying to kind of keep the kids focused and getting them back on track. Is that a?
I would have Lori or, that's not exactly correct.
Okay.
So I would have Lori or Kara come up and say it exactly correct, because it's not, right? It's not exactly, it's
we
close,
have-
it's
All right.
close, but
I
it's
was-
not
I
exactly.
have a motion before
Happy
we
to have
discuss
them
it.
come up.
Okay.
So, can we have a motion for consideration before we discuss, and then we will have them join in the conversation? Do we have a motion for consideration?
Public school calendar is proposed and set the 2027 Berlin High School grad date for Friday, June 11, 2027.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We'll go with Gina. All right, motion by Peter, second by Gina. Now let's open it up for discussion, and, you know, Gloria and Cara
Clean it up.
can join in this discussion.
Yes, so we had two options that we proposed. The first, as Brian said, was exactly as it had originally been proposed last year. And then after hearing some feedback recently from teachers at different levels, the October dates, it worked out where there was an early release at the high school on a Thursday for conferences, then we had early release PD on Friday, no school on Monday, and then a PD on the Tuesday, which meant if you saw students on Friday for the early day, you would only see them once the following week and then not again for another week. So we got some concerns there, and also elementary, it was very choppy, because then they have conferences right after that. So our proposal based on that was to move the 13th of October, which was a full day PD, to what Brian said, change the December early release on the 4th to a full PD day. And then rather than swapping, we were gonna take that early release on the December date and move that to actually May on the 7th.
I missed that.
Just to have something toward the
That's
end of the year.
exactly what I said. Play it back verbatim.
And just for clarification too, this hasn't been approved by you yet.
Right.
So this is coming to you for the first time, so we're not making any changes to the calendar. We made a change to what the typical calendar has looked like for the past few years,
Yep.
right?
Yes, so basically the proposal is
It's not approved yet.
October 13th, regular school day, December 4th would be the full PD day, and then we would move that early release PD day to May 7th.
But it looks like for the calendar we have adopted for 25, 26, and then for this one, it's the same amount of half PD days and the same
Correct.
amount of full PD
Right.
days.
We just
We're not
moved that
changing
one day.
amount.
We're just
Yeah,
moving it,
there's
yeah,
no-
that makes sense.
Off of when it happens, not how many, right? Yep.
And now that we've hashed that all out, can we go back to the why behind when it happens?
Sure, so the October
Maybe it wasn't.
time, they have an afternoon, they have, the high school has Thursday afternoon as a conference day, Friday afternoon as a professional development day. Then they would have no school Saturday, Sunday, Monday for the long weekend. And then they would have the PD day on that Tuesday. Then the following week, McGee and the elementary schools would have conferences, which are shortened days. And so to add one day back into that, to give a little bit more consistency to the instruction part, we thought that the teachers were hoping that we could move the 13th PD day to someplace else in the calendar. And so Cara and I sat down and kind of looked at where it might make sense.
That makes sense, okay. That makes complete sense. Anyone else have any questions or comments about this?
This is not approved yet.
No, I know it's not approved yet,
I know.
it's, we
And we're
gotta
doing it
vote on
backwards.
I know,
it.
but it's not been out to the public, so anything that happens here, we're okay. It's not, so when you shift the calendar and it's already been out to the public, that can cause issues. This is not out to the public yet, it's just
Right.
here.
I think it's pretty good considering they have time off in December, so you're only really giving them that one extra day. So it's, I think it's pretty fair.
It spaces out from the big months are obviously October and March because of the conferences.
Right.
And
So-
it's not an extra day off, it's just
Nope.
changing where the day off.
Days-
is.
days
It's
are
literally
changing,
just
right.
changing things around, nothing.
Right, the work days
We're
are
not
the
adding
same.
anything. It's not changed at all. Yeah,
Nope.
there's no extra days, there's no.
Yep.
No, this is the one week, so they're taking this one over the one that was in the.
So the 13th will become a school day.
Yes.
And that full PD day will now be December 4th. The December
So
4th
they're
half
just
day
moving
will
it.
move, so it's just moving.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
because
just
December
moving it.
4th was a half day.
Was a half day.
Yeah, so now it's a full day,
Just
that's what I was
literally,
saying.
yeah, flip-flop.
But then the
Yes.
half day was moved to a different day.
Yeah,
Exactly,
Yep.
yes.
Although my daughter's birthday is October 13th, so she would probably prefer to have October 13th.
I don't blame her, I would too. I would too.
Any other questions? All right, so we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Vote carries 9-0. Thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying. You can maybe just stay up there just in case.
The
So
next one's an easy one.
the next one is an easy one, I guess.
So in the past, the board has, when we have 181 student days. When we've had a snow day and the end of school falls on a Monday, the board in the past has forgiven the students for that one day. Still becomes a teacher workday, so teachers aren't working less days than what they're contracted for. The students would go to school for one less day. So right now, if we have no more snow days, and maybe we can make them contingent, we have no more snow days,
You can have one more.
then on Monday, the last day of school is Monday the 16th. If you approve this, it would turn, the last day of school would be Friday, June 13th, and the students would have off on Monday, but teachers would still work on that Monday.
And the 13th would become the half day with the students.
Right,
The 16th would be a
right.
full day of teachers.
All we're doing is moving the last day from Monday, which is a shortened day for students, to a shortened day on Friday for students.
All right, do we have a motion for consideration before we discuss?
Move to approve reducing the student days in the 2024-2025 school calendar from 181 to 180, making Friday, June 13th, the last day of school for students.
Do we have a second?
Me.
Melissa. So motion by Brian, second by Melissa. Any discussion?
The only thing I want to say is, if by chance we have another snow day,
Oh, eat your words.
I have to put it out there, because we could, we've had those in March before.
I like snow.
Do we then would have to go until Monday anyways? Are we still okay with last day for students on Monday, not Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 9-0. Thank you for that. All right, we're gonna turn it over to Director of Finance and Operations, Ashley Dorsey, to provide us an update on facilities.
Just FYI, the
Yep.
25-26 calendar was on the agenda, and we're not proposing any changes to that. We just brought it to the committee so that they'd see the changes over time.
Because it's already out.
Yep,
And things have been planned and people
Right,
have been.
that's, makes,
perfect. Thank you.
Hello. This is gonna be very quick. It's probably the shortest one I've done all year because we're kind of in a holding pattern waiting for funding sources and things like that. So just a few updates from things that I've previously spoken about. So the bid packages, I know we've been talking about this a lot for the HVAC projects over at Griswold and Hubbard. They're still in process. It looks like a go-live date is gonna be sometime in April. The concerns regarding the YMCA daycare over at Hubbard Elementary School have since been resolved since our last meeting. The Public Work Building Commission believes that the Hubbard daycare should stay at Hubbard through the duration of the project, so we'll just work around a couple things there, depending on the construction needs and working closely with the YMCA. The reconfiguration of the YMCA, or the Hubbard playground, that's gonna begin over the April break, and that's necessary for the YMCA daycare. So right now, their outside play area is where the new chiller pads are going to be. So you can't have kids hanging out next to mechanicals, so we had to move that the YMCA daycare to another location on the Hubbard property. So again, that will start on April break. We are still waiting on the reports for the BHS floor tiles. We're supposed to get an update maybe at the next Public Building Commission meeting, which is scheduled for this Thursday. It's not 100%. I know they are still waiting on the engineering report. As soon as those reports become available, they will be shared out. The mandatory walkthrough for the architectural services for the McGee Science Lab was held on Tuesday, February 25th. We had 7 firms attend that walkthrough, and the bid for that closes on March 27th. And finally, the summer maintenance requests were emailed out to building administrators for feedback. They're due to the business office back on March 26th. From there, we'll do some prioritization, and we'll see what we could get done between April break and the start of summer, and then over summer break. Everything's dependent on availability of contractors, what we've got going on. We typically prioritize based on health and safety, funding availability, and then the contractor availability.
Any questions for Ashley?
Thanks, Ash.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, moving on to the next part of the agenda. Policy review and revision. This is our second reading in adoption of 6 policies. So before we discuss, can we have a motion for consideration?
Move that the board adopt revised policies 2201, 4118.51, 5125, 5131.83, 5131.81, and 6146.11 as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jen, it's going to Jen this time. She's tried 3 times. All right, motion by Peter, second by Jen. Jen, any discussion on these 6 policies?
I have a question
Yes.
on policy 614611. Based on the revised policy, this is for clarification, please correct me if I'm wrong. My takeaway is that the GPA can be lower than a 3.0 and a student can still be eligible for automatic admissions. So when I read the revision, it said that students that have a GPA under 3.0 can still be eligible for automatic admissions. To me, the way I understood it, it sounded like the standard was going to be lowered. Because if we're going under a 3.0 is a B, right? I mean, on average, it's a B app. It just struck me. That's why I'm asking. I don't mean to be. It just kind of struck me as why would that be?
Yeah, so we can let Brian answer that, but I am in the policy review and revision explanation sheet in Schoology, and it does say that this is being revised to comply with Public Act 2447, which makes changes to the requirement for the CAP. Previously, class rank percentile was a determining factor for eligibility. I don't think anyone gives that stuff out anymore. That's like, I don't know, you're not supposed to talk about it. But the act now establishes that a student's unweighted GPA is a determining factor, unweighted. So the weighted can bring you above a 4.0, right? Yeah,
Yes.
it brings you above. So now this is talking about unweighted, but do you want to talk more?
The weightedness goes with the courses. So if you're taking honors or AP, there's different weight
Right,
for an A
yep.
or B. So they make it unweighted, which is really allowing a greater number of students to qualify. The determining factor before was the class rank, and because we're not
Right.
we have class rank, but we don't publicize it. We use it really only for salutatorian and valedictorian every year. Because the state has really pushed us away from the class rank, they need another qualifier, and so they're using unweighted GPA, which makes more students eligible for it. It broadens it, Gina.
So that's a nice way of saying it lowers the standards.
Well, yeah, yes, I'm saying broaden, but you could say it
Yeah.
that way too.
All
and
right, just for
yes,
clarification, I
the
just wanted
standards,
to
yes.
make sure I understood it correctly.
So it's a 3.0 regardless of the level of courses you're taking. So it's more relative to the individual student, their ability, what they're taking, and if they do a 3.0 or B average, then they qualify.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we could move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 9-0. Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to textbook recommendations for adoption. I'm gonna invite co-directors of curriculum and instruction, Lori Jerpin and Cara Watson, up to talk to us about this. I'll let them talk, and then we'll have a motion, then we can discuss as a board, and then we'll vote. Go ahead.
So Jess Reedy, our department supervisor for World Language 712, is making the recommendation to align with world language standards and to really enhance the work that the kids are doing in their world language courses. They're recommending the adoption of several texts, and those have been going around for you to read if you happen to be fluent in Spanish.
That's my problem. Some have an English translation on the back for a summary.
There's summaries
Yes.
in
Summaries
English on the back, or in cover.
So one of the books is for their 8th grade Spanish 1B. That's the Pobre Ana.
Ana.
So that's a little more of a simple text. And then there are 3 for the high school level. One is for the grade 10 to 12 Spanish 1B, Tumba. I have to say all of these out loud. La Quinceañera de Nayeli is for Spanish 2, which is grades 9 through 12. And then the final book, La Calaca Alegre, is for our Spanish 5 students, which is really, that's just our seniors. So that's a little more advanced, obviously. Even the content of the book is a little more advanced, but those are.
Can we talk about that
Yep.
for a second? Because if you
We
look
talked
at
about that in the meeting.
Because we talked about it in the meeting. So this is the one this is Spanish 5. It is for 17 and 18-year-olds who are seniors in high school, which is what we kind of talked about at the curriculum.
Yes.
There are pictures in here. I'll just show you the one that we noticed right away, and you did too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like this one pushing someone down the stairs, and you can see. So it has some graphic pictures, if you will, for some individuals. It's a mystery book. It says what it's about in the back. I think what we were, well, for me, I'll just talk about, it's for 17 and 18-year-olds. If this was given to a Spanish reader, they would probably be reading this in 6th grade, maybe even younger, because of it's not even difficult for a Spanish reader. So when you look at what kind of youth and students will be reading it, for me, it's appropriate for a 17 and 18-year-old to read this kind of book. And I think that's kind of what Melissa, Brian, right, that we kind of talked about. And yeah, I don't know, Melissa, you have any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Like I
Okay,
said,
all right.
It's seniors, like, it's the shocking of the opening, but then when you're talking about who's reading it, and, I mean, the content in terms of the mystery and the solving, I mean, it makes, once again, I can't read the Spanish text, but the summary.
It's getting pushed down the stairs.
Yeah.
So I just have 2 questions.
Wait, can we make a motion before, because we just wanted them to present it first, and then, because they were in the committee, and then we'll make a motion, then as a board we can discuss. So is there anything else you guys want to present to us? And the committee members? No? No? Okay. So do we have a motion for consideration?
By Myra Kenyon and published by Myra Kenyon. Pobre Ana by Blaine Ray and published by TPRS Books. La Quinceañera de Nayeli by Denise Hatcher and published by Mary Bailey. And La Calaca Alegre by Carrie Toth and published by TPRS Publishing, Inc.
Impressive. Do we have a second?
Gracias.
Who's second? Gina. Okay. Now we can open it up for discussion. Jessica, what's your question?
Are they necessary? One, because they seem quite graphic. I don't know, like they are for older kids, but, and where are they gonna be? Are they gonna be like in the school library? Are they gonna be in the classroom?
So these are to be used in the classroom, and the purpose of them is to enhance vocabulary acquisition. They all have glossaries in the back so that they can be able to look up the words that they don't know. It also gives them an authentic use of the language. And so that's the reason. So I think Brian brought it up earlier that we don't want kids just conjugated verbs. We want them to have interaction with language. So that's why.
And
it's
now
important to have that, and they do align with the world language standards.
Okay. And now, is it gonna be like a book that's assigned, or is it a book that they get to choose for like a free read?
This is a book that's assigned.
think when you're, especially at that level, at level 5, and even the younger, these levels that are for the younger grades, is that for conversation, I mean, when I took Spanish in high school, it was like no
It's
way.
sentences and not.
Exactly, and then you would,
stories.
regurgitate it back. This is reading a story. They go over it together as a class, so they don't read it independently. Oh my gosh, what?
Just
yes,
Rainey's the
thank you.
same.
She was
They do
saying
one
that they,
section at a time.
yes, they'll break it down. They go over it together to talk about the sentence structure, what it means, and then talk about the story. So almost like
Like a read aloud.
almost like a read aloud, so that they're, so then for conversational purposes for Spanish, I'm assuming, do we do this in our French classes?
I was
as
just gonna say that.
well? Do we have the?
Can I-
Oh, I'm so sorry, Katie. Yes.
No, it's okay. So I just want to piggyback what Lori and Carter are saying, because something that is being missed, which is a huge reason behind the push of this, is fluency and proficiency.
Thank you.
And so testing has changed as well with the Apple testing and things like that of that nature, where students now have a proficiency to speak in a language for a duration of time, which is a little bit different than years past. So it's not choppy, what you're speaking to, Jamie, where it's choppy, right? One sentence back, versus a fluency in dialogue. And so this is a shift. The department as a whole is shifting to focus more on culture too. So the content is to hook the kids, right? Appropriately at their age level, to kind of go, oh, mystery, let's get involved in that, so that they're engaged. So it's, it's far less, and I do, for transparency, want to point out, we do have some outliers. We occasionally have a 16-year-old in Spanish 5 too, depending on the proficiency, but typically not younger than 16. So it's really about having the ability to have a long duration conversation of fluency and proficiency versus a sentence, right? Sort of time return.
Do they do it in the French classes too, Katie?
So these textbooks, not for, to my knowledge, not per se these particular texts, but something since Mr. Guerin has come on board, who is from the country of France, he's brought in sort of this push for culture within the world language education, which has really, I would say, stimulated Jess Ramey's, leadership lens and thinking about how we're approaching literacy, because it's really about literacy as well,
Yeah.
right? So he uses materials and resources, but he's year 2
Gotcha.
at Berlin High School, so I'm not sure.
So he's not there yet, maybe.
I think the use of supplemental texts such as this will grow.
It's also what's available.
Right,
Well, exactly.
That's true too.
You can read this one.
Only so many options.
If you could think about students when they're learning to read, right, in English, and the text that they would start to read, but I think you gotta think of the context of, these students are 16, 17, 18 years old. It's getting them to be able to read the Spanish at that level, and actually in like a small little book like you would read in 2nd grade, right? That's what you're looking at, so they can understand, not just reading out of a, textbook like we think of.
That's not my problem. I think the books or the stories are great. I think where I'm hung up is this guy holding people at gunpoint. I mean, if I'm being honest. And I don't know what it says because it's in Spanish. So I don't really know what's happening here, but Peter did point out a good point. It looks like his buddy's helping him.
Yeah, and if we think about our
That's for
next
high
level
school.
of text, the problem
That's
with
for
the
16, 17, or 18
think
year
about
olds.
some books that we
Highest
have
level you
with
can.
more stories and things of that nature. It's not out of the ordinary for a high school student to be reading about, unfortunately, crime and things of that, so context, obviously.
I think a lot
They
of
do like
students too,
mysteries.
they play a lot of Call of Duty Black Ops and then like shooting games on computers when they're not supposed to.
But it's also not read independently. It's read
Right,
under the
scaffolded.
context of the class, and they're doing book discussions over it. So, I mean, you're having a book discussion about this, so if you had issues as a student or whatnot about a certain, with pictures or whatnot, you have that ability to discuss as a class, which I think is a nice, especially in a world language class, to be able to, and speak it in Spanish and talk about how you have maybe some issues, or, because if we have kids that have issues with this, I'm sure they're allowed to say, yeah, I'm not reading this. It's not like we're gonna, oh, yep, you have to. We've never done that. So, but I think that, again, like you said, Katie, it kind of, you want it to be interesting. And from a parent of a high schooler who's in Spanish 4 right now, it's rough getting them to
Stay engaged.
to
as
stay
well.
engaged, and he would love this. I mean, this would be something that he would absolutely. That's not for everybody. That's just my kid, but I can understand. But I like that it's something that they discuss as a class together and go over it.
I mean, I feel like growing up, I remember reading, and this story stuck with me forever, but I read it, it was good, the lottery.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, no.
Everybody got really excited.
Yeah, so, I
That was
mean, I don't know how much
I'll
worse
never
this could be,
forget that.
right? Yeah. You definitely learned?
No,
Oh.
I'm not, but it seems like
It was a
lot
community that
hard.
came together, and it was a picnic, and it all seemed good, but then what you find out is they were drawing a lottery for someone to get stoned to death. So.
Write that down.
So, I mean, I remember that, I read it, like, cause I was super into it. I don't know what that says about me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I just wanted to say I'm in Spanish 5 right now, and actually today we had a field trip to Hubbard, and we all of the students got to pick a book of their choice. I picked Corduroy; it was my favorite book when I was little. And we went to Hubbard, and we got paired up with students that were bilingual or that were in more like more English-assisted classes, and we got to just read our books to them. And to be honest, like overall, I think the experience, even though Corduroy's, it's a little kid's book, but just being able to read that book completely in Spanish and then like explaining the book and just talking to these students in Spanish just overall helped, I think, the classes overall fluency, just pronunciation improved, and it just like helped us a lot more with communication. So I think like introducing books, especially at like Spanish 5, which is a college level class, I think introducing books would just like, I think benefit the students a lot more than just simple like worksheets, which is what we usually do.
I certainly love the idea of the books. Yeah, I agree. As someone in Spanish 4 right now, we read like a rendition of Pobreyana. And again, that's also an 8th grade level book. Like it's kind of a spin-off of that one. So it's not as interesting as would be. But when it comes down to the class conversations, you're almost forced to learn new words and to try and create sentences and things you would never even think of. Like, even when you're writing essays and stuff and it comes to words, you're like, oh, I wish I knew this word, it may come up in your book. So it's very important for that, like, beyond just a, like, packet worth of words, it's lots of, like, situational learning as well, which I think, too, comes with, like, a murder mystery book. Students are going to be engaged in it because you're going to want to see what happens, and even though you don't necessarily know the word, you're going to be like, well, I want to know what happens. You're going to learn and try and finish the sentence, pretty much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for sharing. I'm really glad you guys just jumped right in because that's why we have you here and we need to hear from you guys.
Anusha, will you look at this?
I just want to make it clear,
I want
like,
you to
I'm
look
not
at that one
opposed
that
to
they're
the
used for
stories.
fifth.
I just don't know that I love
Spanish
the
5.
content.
I think the content's okay.
But it's hard because it's in Spanish, so I don't know what it says.
But I think kids that age get exposed to worse
Go to the
things.
pictures, you'll see.
You can also just use Google Translate on your phone and put it over it and then reread what it's saying.
I've never tried that before.
Oh, I do it,
But
yeah.
I'm sure most kids probably.
Can you
Yeah, it's-
send me that app? Not that I'm doing
Yeah,
it right
it's
now,
just
but
go to the
that's
App
great
Store,
to
it's
know.
Google Translate, that you just
Oh.
put whatever language.
It's just Google
It just is, and you hold it over. Like as a
Yeah,
picture.
you just hover it over and then it just shows you exactly what.
No. No, I was supposed to take a course there, but my art classes were 5 hours long, so I couldn't sit.
They're just looking at the picture real quick.
I didn't know if anyone was.
Any other questions while they're looking? I had asked right before. That's okay, but no one had any.
She can read it, so.
And obviously the teachers read it.
I love it.
Right.
Anusha's smiling, I think she loves this book already.
Is it as good as Corduroy?
Don't read the ending.
I know.
What happens at the end.
That's like my sister. She always reads the end of the mystery first. I'm like, what?
Does she?
And then there's like, there's certain words in here that like, if I don't recognize them, like down here, it does like have like a little, I forget what they're called, like,
Footnote?
footnotes, where it does say like, okay, that's what this word means. I think like this scene is just like like the bad guy, you
Like
know.
a typical fight scene, like all the ones with any graphic pictures, it just kind of seems like someone's trying to escape somewhere or go out of somewhere, try and find some kind of solution to the problem.
And there's a whole glossary in the back, I just noticed.
Yeah, I
with
like
like
that.
all, like
Yeah,
all
that's
of the
cool.
words. So I think like, I don't know, I would read this, but yeah.
All right, so thank you for your input on that too, and it's good to know that, you know, you guys are learning Spanish so you can read it and actually understand it, what none of us can, so. Peter can read out loud the Spanish words very well. Okay, so if there's no other discussion, is there any other discussion? Okay, we can move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 9-0. Thank you. So then the last item on the agenda, we had an executive session anticipated. It said budget matters by the time we like worked it out and figured out what it was going to be. We just kind of had to put a placeholder. It's to interview the finalist for the football coaching position. So do we have a motion for consideration?
Yep, I move to enter into executive session to interview for the head football coach, inviting the superintendent.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So motion by Melissa, second by Jessica. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 9-0. So at 7:29, we're gonna enter into executive session, and then when we come out, we'll adjourn.